Hello and welcome back to Processing the Process, where we capture and discuss the technical, psychological, and contextual dynamics that shape the process of creating a work of art. Week by week, moment by moment, we're following Allie K. Dakers, teacher, actor, director, and producer, as she shapes the development of her innovative middle school drama club and guides her students' idiosyncratic artistic journeys. Today, we'll be focusing on the February 6th drama club meeting. And it was interesting because one of the first things that Allie told me about this meeting was that it was great. Now, I have a feeling that as Allie describes the dynamics, it will become obvious why, but it made me think, Allie, what criteria do you use in this case when you're categorizing a meeting or a rehearsal as great? What does that mean to you?
In this particular context, there are a few issues that I was concerned about. I was concerned about how turnout will be, because we're getting closer to our pitch meeting. Right. And we had discussed previously I wanted to see more faces that were planning on attending. Some students had taken some hiatus from the group, other responsibilities, other activities, which is totally fine. But I had contacted those kids from previous years and those that might have been interested that had spoken to me along the way that now is the time to start coming. So our numbers were growing in terms of those kids coming back, showing up, heeding the call, so to speak, and being responsible with what they intend to do and carrying out even these early responsibilities of just showing up, making it known that I'm here, I'm part of this group, I'm here to help us get ready to move forward to the next step. Right. And kids that couldn't make it, some even emailed me to let me know and definitely touched base, which I was really pleased about. And at this age level, that's rare. It's not rare that a kid it's not rare that a kid will just blow something off. That's any kid, It's okay, it happens. I was just pleased to see that for the most part, the kids that had conflicts definitely told me about it, and that's responsible. That's a good sign. And I felt the spark of the kids about the upcoming showcase. We're starting to have the hubbub, the talk, and that was more palpable this time around, so that was really cool to kind of hear and experience. The sense of camaraderie, which I was very concerned about,
absolutely,
kind of was just there, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" I had a lot of plans to construct, to work on that and to build with that, but it kind of just sort of fell into place on that meeting. So that was pretty fantastic. And my other concern was regarding skill level and maturity.
Yes,
there was like a marked improvement. I don't know, it was because we had the group together for the most part, so we had those stronger, more mature actors working with younger ones and kind of lifting up the whole bar, so to speak. Or if the activities we did kind of gave them something to really lock on to that they were really engaged with, and that's why we saw the improvement. Either way, I'm just happy we saw it.
It worked.
Yeah, and it was a real positive vibe all the way throughout. So,
and I wonder if perhaps even on a subconscious level, knowing that the stakes are at least a bit higher because a showcase is coming up, if one's concentration, if one's commitment to what they're doing, if they're able to really bring it up a notch, knowing it really matters now, perhaps, even if they couldn't articulate that yet.
Yeah.
Perhaps that was
feeling
in the mix.
It. The energy was there. Yeah, it was good.
Exactly. And you may recall from our previous videocasts, and Allie essentially just alluded to it now, that there were two areas she targeted that she felt required renewed focus at this very point in time. Again, rebuilding a sense of the group as a unified ensemble, and reinforcing foundational acting and scene construction skills, all of which are going to be crucial for the upcoming showcase. And fortunately, in this particular meeting, each theater game, each exercise successfully addressed one or both of these objectives. So we also know that Allie believes it's important for for her students to discover their knowledge through inquiry and discussion, essentially organically, as opposed to Allie imparting information in a lecture-style format. And I think you'll see that this approach was central as well in this meeting. So, while taking care of various administrative responsibilities with a number of the members of the drama club, Allie recalled a game that many of the kids have played in camp called Illy Dillio, which is a hand game that's played in a circle. So as she was busy with the administrative elements, she had the idea to suggest to the rest of the kids that they, quote, play that game that you love. And Allie, you said that they knew exactly what you were talking about and got very excited and jumped right in. And if we think about the first area that Allie wanted to address, which was ensemble building, this game apparently really hit the spot. And the kids enjoyed a strong sense of connection, and they had a lot of fun. And although the veteran kids started it, they really welcomed all of the new kids, taught it to them. They joined in pretty seamlessly. So it worked out beautifully. And in fact, you told me, Allie, that you felt that nothing that you could have come up with would have given the kids the same sense of fun and joy and camaraderie.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. And when that game was established last year, it would be during like downtime. They would just, or waiting to circle up, waiting for me to join them. And they would just, or waiting to, you know, some are in costume, others are not. They started this on their own. I had nothing to do with this. So, so that, I think, was at the root of why it worked so well, because it wasn't something I taught them and that they're just, you know, continuing something that I've laid into them or whatever. It's something that totally was from them. So
exactly.
Couldn't have done it better than they did. So.
Well, great way to start off. And next up was a game in which 3 kids at a time create shapes. A pirate, an eagle, and a bowl of Jell-O.
Yeah.
Now, this game also facilitated ensemble building. Can you explain how that happened?
Like what this game is? I did not make this game up at all. This is like an old game that actually another teacher colleague taught me. And I loved this game. It's a circle up game sort of scenario. One person is in the center and they go to another person in the circle and they'll either holler at them, pirate, eagle, or bowl of Jell-O. And if it's eagle, the person in the center has to squawk like an eagle and the 2 people on the sides have to be like the wings. So the person on, you know, basically 2 people are creating the wings and the center kid is squawking like the eagle. So all 3 are creating that shape. If you're a pirate, the center kid, I think, stands on 1 foot because he's got, or she's got, like, you know, like the peg leg. and the person on the right or the left, like, supports as, like, the meaty, you know, and the other person is a parrot on the shoulder and, like, squawks and things like that. Birds. Bowl of Jell-O is a fan favorite. We have 2 kids on opposite side, like, creating, like, sides of a bowl, and the person in the middle just kind of, like, jiggles their best Jell-O jiggle, and it's really kind of cute. It was really cute. So that was the first time I'd done that game with them, and they really loved it. So that's something I'm probably, if I, again, need just something, I'll be like, bowl of Jell-O, and, like, they'll get it going, and it'll be fun. I think it'll be a good one for them.
And but you felt that this really built, again, that sense of camaraderie.
It did, yeah.
How so, exactly?
Yeah, well, the fact that each of these shapes have to be done as a team, you know, it's silly. Everyone's laughing together, you know. Everyone's competing on who can be, like, the jiggliest Jell-O, things like that, or, like, the squawkiest eagle. But really, it was the fact that it wasn't like picking and choosing who you're going to work with. You just worked with that person, like, immediately, and you wanted to be successful in completing this shape and make it fun. So it was like instant camaraderie in the sense that you're forced to work together, and it's fun. It's lighthearted. It's not like a task. It's just silliness.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I made sure that we kept track of who got to be in the center, and all the kids were like, oh, you know, so and so hasn't gone yet. And so, like, go over to that person so they can be the bowl. Everybody wanted to be the bowl of Jell-O. Like, everyone wanted to be the Jell-O. So while we had lots of birds, lots of peg leg pirates and stuff, everybody got to kind of get involved, and no one was left out. So it was good.
Well, what a nice way to segue into the group discussion about the upcoming showcase pitch meeting. And Allie told the kids that anyone who is interested and wishes to be eligible to pitch an idea must attend the next 2 meetings. And this really laid the groundwork for the kids thinking about why it's important that everyone is present and reintegrated as a group before the pitch meeting occurs. So through discussion, the kids were able to actually identify and start to articulate some of those reasons.
Yeah.
Can you share their insights with us?
Yeah, I expressed the fact that kids are going to need to come, tell your friends, all of that. And I asked them why. I said, do you think it's important that we regroup? And I mean, some kids that didn't really know, like the younger kids, the first year kids are like, whatever. But the older kids, especially those who have returned, were like, yeah, it's important. We need to, make sure that we can build our group up again. Various other ideas were like, if we're going to plan ideas, we should be all together to talk about them, things like that. And really about being on the same page. We're all starting something together. We want to begin it as a group and we want to end it as a group. Throughout the process, maybe we won't all be at every rehearsal if we're not focusing on that day, but beginning and end, we all need to be there. We all need to kind of know what's on the docket there. And we also talked about how it's not really fair for some kids to put in all year long this work, this effort to build those skills and all of this, while other kids just kind of walk into the pitch meeting like, I got an idea and I'm going to do my scene. And it's like, who are you? Where have you been? You know what I mean? Especially for students that have never been involved with drama club before. It would be a pretty particular circumstance to just have someone walk in for the first time at that point. It would definitely be like a little meeting, a little chat. I would have, the child and I would definitely have a discussion in a way to kind of, it's sort of like a mock interview. And it's not in the sense of like, no, you're not going to be allowed in, but it's to promote that accountability on that kid's part if they are truly interested. And maybe, they're another person who is friends with kids that have done it before, that learned about it, that thought it was awesome. But I would definitely have that time with the student for them to kind of in a mature way take ownership of their own reasons being there and give them an opportunity to express their commitment and talk to them one-on-one about the seriousness of the nature of what they are committing to, and everyone was pretty on board with the fact that, we need to come together now. We can't just, stroll in whenever we feel we can or want to. So
exactly, and in so doing, it sounds like you really are validating the hard work that your kids have been putting in for many months, and honoring it.
Yeah, exactly.
In essence. So, and once those details were discussed and figured out, Allie was ready to move on to, if you recall, the second priority of the meeting, which was the development of the foundational acting and scene construction skills. And first, Allie, I know that you took a little bit of a step back to review the basics. Let's make sure the foundation is firm.
Yes.
As our colleagues may recall, what you show, what you know, and how you connect to the other characters. So from this review, she was able to springboard into what she calls the advanced acting technique, which focuses on obstacles and objectives. Actually, I should say it in the reverse, and you'll see why in a moment. Objectives and obstacles. First, Allie, you decided to have a brainstorm discussion with the kids to kind of help them to pull out of themselves and tease out the meaning of these two terms. So could you summarize for us these concepts of objectives and obstacles that you discussed with the group and why they're so important?
Yeah. Some of the terms that the kids came up with would be like, for objective, would be like, oh, what a character has to do, or what they want, or what they need. And I'm like, yes, that's absolutely right. I reshaped it just in the sense of phrases like the big want. You'll hear a lot in our field. We have super objective, which is basically that driving force that a character has, and something they need to fulfill that follows the character through the arc of the entire play. Then you have mini objectives or scene objectives that follow through beats, these moments within the play. And all of these little objectives, these little goals that you have in mind, get you to that big goal. So we talked about the fact that every character, regardless of how long or short a scene is, has this objective, this need, this big want that drives them. It dictates what they do. It's basically the heartbeat of their action and of their intention and all of that. And then I asked, what is obstacle? And we had the usual responses, like something that an argument, a conflict, all of this. And I said, yes, it is. In this case, what we're focusing on here is something that's specifically getting in your way of your objective. And knowing both of these things and understanding your own objective and foreseeing and dealing with obstacles that may show up in your way. Whether it's an improv, you don't necessarily know it's going to come in your way, and that's all right. You deal with it on an as it comes at you basis, which supports overall the skills of staying present. And then when you have text, you know what these obstacles will be through your script analysis. So you shape the choices that you're going to make as an actor a little more articulately, a little bit, based on text. But the way in which the relationship pans out as you see it in action is still driven by these objectives that can still be spontaneous despite knowing what's going to happen. So we discussed the fact that every character has an objective, every character will be facing obstacles, and we also noted that not every character is going to achieve their objective, and that's okay too. The whole, understanding these concepts kind of supports the Meisner philosophy that we've talked about, I think, before, living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. That's Sanford Meisner. And what that really means is you're cultivating your character based on given circumstances that's within the text or within the improv or whatever it is that you're doing. And by living truthfully, what we mean by that is tuning in, staying present in the moment by focusing on your acting partner, on the scene that's happening before you. This keeps you from self-directing, which will take the realism out of anything pretty quickly. I think.
Right.
And it also, it just makes it authentic and gives the kids a chance to tune into each other and find that. We've talked a lot about that humanity that exists in the world itself. So when we are present, we can create characters that will respond and react in a way that is very natural. So it prevents anticipation, like I said, in the self-direction. So that's the goal. Eventually, as we do construct our scenes, we'll learn how to make something rehearsed look spontaneous, but we're not there yet. I don't think that it's not the right time. They have to actually experience spontaneity authentically before they can reproduce it for others. So this game was intended to do that.
Interesting. And I want to get into that a little bit more a little bit later. But next, Allie initiated an improvisation exercise that was designed to help the kids understand the real impact of knowing what your objectives are and dealing with the obstacles that make it difficult to achieve those objectives. So, Allie, I found it interesting that there were two different ways that you imagined this particular exercise could play out. So you decided to outline what those two approaches are to the kids and have the kids vote and decide which one they wanted to move forward with. Can you explain why you decided to take that approach and what is it, why you think the kids chose what they did? Did they really have an understanding of how that was going to help them?
The two options were, one, to be given an objective. One student will have an objective, the other will have an obstacle, and they're linked and paired in some way. That's the foundation of either option. And we've talked a little bit about how I get concerned that we have kids sitting around.
Yes.
You know, that it's a whole lot of waiting. You know, if it's a two-person scene that's happening on stage, but you have 25 kids in the group, I mean, there's a lot of sitting around. Sure. You know, so I expressed that to them. I said, as you know, guys, you know, we want to avoid the sitting around, so here are the options. The first option was, in your pairs, spread throughout the theater space, you'll be playing out your scenes, you know, engaging with each other, staying within your circumstances and whatnot. And I would rove around, see how we're doing, check in, all of this, and at the end of a certain amount of time of getting that experience, see if anyone wants to perform theirs. And the second option was, we do go one pair at a time on the stage. The rest of us are seated in the audience, which is good, practicing audience skills, which are also important as acting skills, I think, especially for young actors. They should know. And we all kind of get a chance to be watching at the same time, analyzing at the same time. And the kids chose the choice too. They chose to be seated and waiting and watching, and I was so impressed with them. I'm not sure if like you said, did they really know what they were choosing?
Right.
I don't know that they knew that this would be a far better choice for them in terms of everyone learning as we move along. And also, again, I don't know that in this context they're ready to present spontaneity in a rehearsed form. If we had been spattered around the room, already kind of knowing what's going on with each other, and then getting up on stage after practicing and planning and rehearsing and all of this, we're going to see a very different animal than if we see something play out. Because here's the thing about the game, neither student knew what the other's objective or obstacle was. So, of course, if we have a rehearsal time or a time to explore and then present, we're going to lose the essence of that spontaneity. We're going to lose that realism. They're going to add things in. Things are going to be lost that were beautifully authentic in that moment. So that was really the best choice that they made, and I was proud of them. It really does. It eliminates pre-planning, which was great. And I will say this too, when the kids were watching, there was no pre-planning. They wanted to keep their stuff a secret, which was really kind of fantastic. And it also supports that living truthfully under imaginary circumstances, which, if anything, that's what I want them to kind of take away, like that skill. Because if you can lock in on that philosophy, that acting technique, you can play any scene. You know what I mean? So that was kind of really what this is about too, understanding these technical elements of objective and obstacle, but also playing out this acting technique of living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. So,
well, it seems that without a vital piece of information, it's as if you have no choice but
you literally don't,
because it cannot be pre-thought, predetermined. You have to be in the moment because there's no previous knowledge. So, as it turned out, after the kids selected choice 2, they paired off, and as Allie said, one partner would be given an objective, the other an obstacle to achieving that objective.
Right. And it could have been an objective for that child as well, like 2 objectives running that in some way had a relationship. Other examples where one person had a very strong objective and the other person was an obstacle in some way. They have an objective, but it might not have been as strong as the others, but definitely was an obstacle in some way.
Exactly. And from that information, they launch into an improvised scene. And you felt, Allie, that this turned out to be really successful.
Yeah.
What were the elements of it that you felt really stood out to you?
I think the fact that there was no rehearsal was key. They knew very clearly what their objective or obstacle was, and I did give them a few minutes before we were up on the stage and working for them to personally cultivate that within themselves, not sharing with anybody else, but giving them a few minutes, some time, maybe 3 minutes or so to just kind of sit and meditate, if you will, on that concept. Because some of them did have, contextual elements that could be played out. So within the context of the obstacles or objectives, you would shape the context of the scene, the setting, time, characters, all of that. What I thought, what was so awesome about it is that they seem to really internalize that goal, like the objective or the obstacle. Like it definitely was real to them. It wasn't even necessarily specific. So some of them were very specific. Some of them was like, you're starving, your friend has a snack and you have to have it. You know what I mean? Other things are just like you're having a really bad day and you want to be alone. That's all you really want right now. So the second example that I just said really means that the child has to cultivate reasoning of why do I want to be alone? What am I upset about, right? So I gave them some time to kind of think about that. And I also did know who my actors were, so I would give ones that required a little deeper thought, a little more of the to those kids that I knew could handle that and would want that challenge, versus maybe more of a show kind of a thing, with no that's very obvious, like you're starving and you want her snack, like that's easy, let's do that, versus something more emotional and deeper that the kid can cultivate themselves. So they were able to connect to each other really well, which I thought was really cool. And like you had said, you didn't really have a choice in the matter with the way that we constructed the activity. They followed the rules of improv with yes, and. When one person started, and this was reflected in the game Freeze and other improv games that we played, so they're used to this, but they stuck to it. If one person started a scene, the other one clued into what it was and moved it along in the way that made sense, which was great. There was no added conflict or added bizarre weirdness that was out of left field that would have thrown things off. So that was really cool, and it was actually a sign that they're maturing as performers, which I was super concerned about. So
exactly,
it shows me that I think when they're focused, when they're driven, when they are feeling like they really own what it is their character needs and wants, then we saw the level kind of rise, which was pretty great. In terms of the audience, because it can get a little wacky when you have 20 kids sitting in an audience, I was super impressed with them and pleased with them because they all watched. No one was pre-planning, like I had said, or talking about their scene because they wanted it to be a secret. It's almost like each of them, because it was a conflicting intention on either side, it was like there was competition in a way. So it sort of, made them be like, oh, mine's a secret. I'm going to get what I need, and I'm not going to let her know about it, or not let them know about it. And so they weren't planning. They weren't talking about things. Whereas other times when I've done scene work that have been little, pieces that they've rehearsed and constructed, they're still whispering about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it while group one is up on stage. So there was none of that, which was fantastic.
Interesting.
And they were engaged and positive and cheering and jeering when appropriate, and be like, oh no, she did it, all that kind of stuff. It was just really cute and really fun to watch. And it was one of those days where I could just walk around behind them in the different seats of the theater and just kind of see it all play. I move around a lot. I don't know if you can tell, I'm a moving person. So while all these scenes are happening, I'm walking around, so I'm getting all the different angles of them and just listening to their little, not that they're having side conversations, but just seeing them really interact with what's happening on stage, and gleaning and trying to figure it out themselves, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty great. So, and their mechanics were a little better. Again, I did preface before we began, let's turn out, we need to practice our vocals, all of that. So all of these, even the mechanical, technical elements were elevated as well. So that was really it was really nice to see, because it's tough when you have young actors on a big stage in a big house, because their voices are not developed yet. So they do get lost. They get lost up, they get lost out, they get lost. So we're starting that now. We have been, but now I'm pushing that element so that they're ready in those few months we have left. So,
well, again, I think you just brought up an interesting point, and one that we've pointed out to our colleagues repeatedly over the months. Is that you jokingly referred to your being in constant motion, but it seems to me you also set up the curriculum and the way you play it out in such a way that enables you to do, and this word just came in my mind, reconnaissance, that you're able to monitor in real time what the kids are doing, how it's impacting them, what they do as a result of it, and it's like, taking all of that information, sifting through it, and using it to guide you moving forward as you assess all kinds of technical and emotional and social elements that I imagine will help shape your decisions regarding curriculum, even though you may follow your pre-prescribed script, as it were. You're always, from what you say, tweaking to accommodate the actual context. And so to me, that reconnaissance is really about gathering information about the context in real time. And it sounds like you were really able to do that very successfully.
Yeah. I was really pleased with all of it. It was like a whew kind of meeting, and I guess add that to what is great. Like, it worked.
Exactly.
And we're on track. Okay, good. So
exactly.
It was a relief. Yeah.
So I guess my last question then would be, how does this feeling of relief, like, okay, I achieved those key objectives, I feel the group coming together as a unified ensemble, I can see that their fundamental skills are improving and that they are able to integrate more challenging material and technique. You did it. You saw it. How will that impact how you feel moving forward into the next meeting?
That depends on the day. There are, my own anxieties absolutely creep up. I'm with every week that passes, I hope that we constantly, go up, and that's not reality. I'm going to have up days, I'm going to have down days. So really, it's about me keeping my cool, me keeping my faith in them, and me understanding that this is a process, that we are going to have the up days, we are going to have the down days. There are going to be some days where, no one can come to a rehearsal at all. And I'm going to be like, really? Like, yeah, we have so-and-so's birthday party. And I'm like, really? Okay. So I have to, maintain my own basic balance and keep my faith in them and faith in the program, that it's going to flow as it should, and try not to get too heady about it. And what I mean by that is not pre-plan it. Yes, pre-plan it, but not anticipate that this is supposed to happen this way, but meet every challenge as it comes, and be flexible and open. Trust.
Right. And it's not a straight line.
No.
And in this case, the straight line of improvement at a steady pace.
It's not constant linear. It goes all over the place. And that's
absolutely.
Okay. And that's all right.
Three-dimensional.
Yeah.
But maybe you really reached a couple of key milestones here, and it sounds like you really set the stage and the parameters for the kids moving forward, and they sound like they've really bought into it and are taking ownership of it. So, how great to move forward from that position. We don't know, of course, what's going to happen. We never do down the line, but we'll savor this for the moment. And of course, please stay with us for our subsequent videocasts as we watch the kids' technique improve. We see them come together in an even more intimate and successful way. And of course, next week is the big pitch meeting. So I think this will be very interesting, Allie, to share with our colleagues, to kind of take them through next time the various elements of a pitch meeting. And if I remember to ask you, to what extent is the pitch meeting you conduct with the kids similar to those that you have experienced as a professional? So that I'm interested in knowing, and I have a feeling our colleagues are as well. So thank you once again. Thank you for being with us, and stay tuned because there's a lot of great stuff ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good evening.